So, a little while ago, I covered the parents in the UK protesting Drag Queen Story Hour arriving at the taxpayer-funded libraries. God, I looked so young and fresh-faced. This video, ironically, was age-restricted by YouTube, because that's right, if you're a baby, you can be brought and sat in front of a drag queen with a bulge reading you a book, but any reporting on Drag Queen Story Hour is not suitable for said children attending Drag Queen Story Hour. Repressive tolerance in action. Despite the concerns of parents in this and plenty of parents across the country, more libraries, London Comic Con, and now the Tate Gallery in London have hosted Drag Queen Story Hour, done by drag queen Ada HD, to read to impressionable children. We've recently learned about the sordid history of Sam, Ada HD, which I would suggest, beyond it being a bit weird that you're a man in a dress talking to kids, is a reason to warrant some wariness about bringing your children near this gentleman. For more on the degeneracy at the Tate Gallery, we actually had this piece over on our website, published by Alexander Adams. The Tate goes queer, politically queer. We're not using any slurs here, YouTube, don't worry. This was published on the 23rd of January, and it was actually precursive to the events that unfolded. So keep your eyes on our website and you'll see tomorrow's news today. So what ended up happening was on the 11th of February, so that was last Saturday, time of recording, Ada HD read storybooks to children inside the Tate Gallery. I wonder if those storybooks were particularly appropriate. We'll get onto the exact kind of storybooks that Ada brings along with him, her. I'm not even sure what I'm meant to refer to it at this point.
Probably in it.
Yep. So if we can just scroll down, he does look like a clown after all. The framing in this title, first of all, is just mental. Protesters clash outside Tate Britain over drag queen story hour telling. They keep calling them far right. I mean, but they don't call the counter protesters, which were stand up to racism, you know, that renter mob. They don't call them far left. So what is it? The advocacy of drag queen story hour, that thing there, that's just politically neutral. That's the default position now, is it? Make sure a man in a dress can read to your children, or you're a far right bigot. Fantastic. Everyone's just being marginalised for being sensible. Outside, T-shirts with slogans such as "Groom dogs, not children" are being worn by the far-right protesters, while placards such as "Don't let the far-right divide us" were shown by the counter-protesters. There's Piers Corbyn there, representative of the far-right, who's a socialist. And he is mad as a box of frogs, so I must disavow.
But he's mad in a sort of fun way, so yeah.
He doesn't do himself the most of credits. Around 30 far-right protesters clashed with similar numbers of counter-protesters who appeared in support of the storytelling. So what did these far-right protesters say? Now, some of them were Patriotic Alternative there, who I, just to say, have no truck with, because I think Mark Collett said that if he was going to save a burning book from a building, it would be Mein Kampf. So
I have no idea who this organisation is.
Callum has done a video on one of their Channel 4 documentaries before. They're not far right because the Nazis were left-wing socialists, but they're white supremacist sympathetic, using the legitimate concerns of parents to Trojan horse into their cause. But some of the people who were there were not necessarily Patriotic Alternative. I don't know if this gentleman who is quoted here is or isn't, but let's look at some of the really scary things the far right are saying. Steve Norman, 72, of Finchley, North London, said he came to support the demonstration against Drag Queen Story Hour because he believed it was a disturbing event. He said, "A drag queen in a pub everyone knows is a bloke and even likes pantomime. The kids know that the drag queen is a bloke, but I think there is a deliberate confusion of boundaries because obviously children are vulnerable to being moulded and having their views and their outlook moulded by people who don't necessarily have children's interests at heart." Dangerous far-right bigot who obviously wants to put the Jews on trains.
Yeah, you had the blokes in dresses at the yearly sort of Christmas panto when I was growing up, but
I was dragged to that. I never liked that.
But you never had them sort of rubbing themselves up against you in a library on any given Tuesday.
Teaching children to twerk and having bare exposed breasts on the stage in Florida.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of an order of magnitude difference, really.
Far right bigot, Dan.
Yeah.
If we go on to the next one, there was one person that was arrested in this, and he's going to be showing up in court. A gentleman by the name of Lance O'Connor, 53, of Plaistow, East London, is accused of assault on an emergency worker, obstruction of a police officer, and 2 homophobic aggravated public order offences. I also saw that apparently he made a racist comment to a police officer. That was in a different report. O'Connor is being held in custody and appear at Westminster Magistrates Court on Monday. So not quite the beer hall putsch, but all right. The event went ahead in the end. Unfortunately, we can see the photos posted by Ada here. And one of the great tragedies of this is not just that the Tate has gone unbearably woke recently. See our book club on Douglas Murray's War in the West for how they were taking down murals on behalf of Black Lives Matter of people that had no connection to slavery whatsoever. But the architecture of the Tate is very pretty. Like we have the old grand majesty of British buildings, and it's occupied by this new priestly class of gender bending, child obsessed weirdos. It is hollowing out our culture from within. It is a parasitic ideology.
To be fair, the Tate have been at the forefront of that for many years now.
I'm not surprised. Most modern art is very subversive. I mean, we all remember the urinal that was put up as literally piddling on any ideas of beauty. So if we can go to the next as well, there was also a recent event in Salisbury. So Ada is continuing his tour. Beautiful, obvious woman. Says disrupted by a far-right protest. Ooh. After it was disrupted by members of Patriotic Alternative, it was moved to another location due to fears for people's safety, the organiser said. It's sad, but it's a reminder of why we're doing this, Ada, the storytrying drag queen, was quoted as saying. Ada HD was due to perform a family-friendly, keep the word family-friendly in mind, we'll come back to that later, storytelling session about bullying starting at 11 GMT. But up to 11, protesters from Patriotic Alternative staged a protest outside the Winchester Gate on Rampart Road, holding banners reading, "Stop sexualising our children." Dangerous far-right bigotry. So we can go to the next one. Stand up to racism. This is them there. This is them chanting. We're not going to watch the video because it's just the typical Yankee-imported slogans from the Renter mob with the same printed out signs as usual. They're all masked up because nothing says, I'm standing up for the good thing and don't have any poor intentions in mind, like dressing like a ninja. And they are quoted as saying, "What are you so afraid of? It's just wigs and makeup." Is it? Then why not have a woman read? That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Why do you have to be a man in a dress reading to children? Well, it's just a pantomime dame. What are you mad about? Let's look at Ada HD's history. Go to Redux article, please. Rest in power. Drag Queen Story Hour UK founder fundraising for convicted child sex offender's funeral. Right.
Not a good look.
No. Nothing he said is good here. So, UK-based drag queen, well known for his performances to children, is fundraising for the funeral costs of a convicted child sex offender he calls his friend. On January 23rd, drag queen Ada HD, the stage name of performer Sab Samuel, announced on Facebook he was fundraising for the funeral costs of Darren Moore, a fellow drag queen, who... The recent update in this story was that someone has been arrested and being questioned on the charge of manslaughter in relation to Darren Moore because he was found dead in drag in an alleyway in Cardiff, I believe.
Oh, terribly sad.
Taken unjustly, Samuel wrote in his post, I'd like to give my friend the send-off he deserves, providing the link to a GoFundMe campaign for Moore and affixing to the post a photo of Moore and his husband. Moore, 39, was found dead in full drag costume on the streets of Cardiff city centre on the morning of the 22nd of January. Previously known as Darren Sewell, Moore was convicted of 4 counts of rape on a boy under the age of 14 while living in South Wales. As a result, he spent 3 years in a young offenders institution. 4 counts of rape of a boy aged 14, only 3 years. It's almost like the justice system being incredibly permissive of perverts leads to more of this stuff and more damaged children, and the cycle of abuse continues. Following his offence, Moore was...
Hang on, that is utter bloody madness.
Yeah.
I remember not so long ago, some bloke got 10 years because he filmed him and his girlfriend without her consent.
Right.
She consented to the sex, but she didn't consent to the filming.
Yeah, revenge porn, yeah.
And he got 10 years for that.
Yeah, and that's fine to get 10 years for that.
But
he should have gotten
rape a boy
life
under 14?
or worse. Absolutely worse. Yeah. But because he fits the intersectional definition of oppressed class, we can't be putting him in the prison system because that just worsens his marginalisation. Pardon, John? Yeah, but he was about 17. Yeah, that doesn't matter. I don't care. You just don't rape 14-year-old boys. That needs to be changed. Anyway, following his offence, Moore was also banned from having contact with children. But in 2011, he was caught working with youth as a gymnastics and dance tutor and was convicted of breaching the lifetime order. He was sentenced to a 3-year sex offenders treatment programme, a 24-month supervision order, 300 hours of community service, and a 6-month curfew with an electronic tag. So it doesn't matter if he went to a young offenders institute. This man is a sick, convicted pedophile, and he was going to completely and repeatedly offend. So, no, you shouldn't have let him out, ever. Moore changed his name after he married his husband, who's also named Darren. What's the joke about gay couples looking alike? At the time of his death, Moore had worked as a jeweller and performed drag under the names Crystal Couture, CC Quinn and Dolly. Moore had exhibited his jewellery at RuPaul's annual DragCon event in London in 2020, so recently propped up by the hegemony because the BBC run RuPaul's Drag Race. As a drag queen, Moore once represented British Airways at a Pride festival in Brighton in 2018. There was also Robert Clothier, who went to Brighton Pride and headlined it, and joked, "I'm sweating like a paedophile in Mothercare, it's so hot in here," and it turned out he got caught in a police sting trying to meet two boys who were being sold by their dad as prostitutes, and he had pink underwear from Primark and chocolate-flavoured condoms in his bag.
My complete lack of surprise.
Yeah, he got a very short sentence as well. Check out my Killer Clowns of Leftism video for that. When Moore's previous conviction came to light, British Airways released a statement saying he did not work for the airline but was brought in by a third-party entertainment agency who supplied a number of people for the event. They also said they were unaware of his convictions under his previous name. Also in 2018, audience members walked out of a Pride Without Prejudice performance of Moore's after he made light-hearted comments about child abuser Jimmy Savile. They can't help but keep confessing it.
No.
Sab Samuel, known as the Storytime drag queen Ada HD, posted on his Facebook page that Moore was an exuberant human being, taken from the world too early. Not early enough. Adding rest in power. He also shared that he wore jewellery that Moore made for him and provided a link to a fundraiser to raise money for his funeral costs. Just over 2 hours later, Samuel posted again in the memory of the child sex offender, writing, "Taken unjustly, I'd like to give my friend the send-off he deserves. Please see the link below. This is to support the husband in this horrible, horrible time." I'm sure the husband knew absolutely nothing about his partner's repeated prior child sexual assault convictions. Also, Samuel has written this. Gay children's books. Gay kids' books. Why do you need to talk about sex to kids, Sam?
They do seem to have a powerful need to do exactly that, don't they?
Three Goats United. Little polyamorous cult there. And also he reposted something saying love has no age. We go to the next one, please, John.
Oh dear.
Yeah, Drag Queen Story Hour UK. Love has no age. With a pride suit and a pride umbrella. Yes. I'm not alleging anything, of course. So why is all of this happening? Just brief question. I will always bring this paper up, and this paper was originally brought to my attention by the wonderful James Lindsay, who is doing the work of reading stuff that nobody else wants to. And I've mentioned this before in a segment where a drag queen got hauled off by the police because of counter-protesters in Tennessee. There's lots of legislative efforts happening to stop this in Texas, Tennessee, Florida. It's not really happening here, and it really needs to, because this is written by the founder of Drag Queen Story Hour USA, a person by the name of Little Miss Hot Mess, who has written kids' books called The Hips on the Drag Queen Go Swish, 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 which is on the New York School Board's curriculum for 3 and up, and has just written If You're a Drag Queen and You Know It. So, the founder of Drag Queen Story Hour US, who obviously works with Sab Samuel to franchise it across the world, is writing books to be shown in schools to 3-year-olds, and this is the purpose of Drag Queen Story Hour. Also, interesting note, Little Miss Hot Mess gained notoriety because they were protesting Facebook's real name provision policy. So drag queens don't have to give their real names to Facebook to make accounts. Just like Darren Moore changed his name to evade the knowledge of his prior child sexual offences.
Well, that's useful.
Yeah, he was demanding anonymity for LGBTQ+ and sex workers.
Yeah, it's very convenient.
Yeah, I don't really trust anyone unwilling to provide their real name and background around children. Thank you very much. This person also performed on Saturday Night Live alongside a drag queen called Britta Filter, who a little while ago I covered with Calvin Robinson in a segment called Drag Planet. There was a black, orange-clad, very overweight drag queen who performed for school kids at the Grace Church in Manhattan. So all the school kids were made to pack out the church pews, and a drag queen strutted down the aisle, dancing and all sorts in a church for school kids.
I do hope at very least they gave the parents a head up so they could take their kids out that day.
No, I don't think they did.
Oh,
No, there was quite a lot of outrage as well. I think it was a private school. So,
oh dear.
Yeah, homeschool your kids at this point. So in this, the authors discuss 5 interrelated elements of Drag Queen Story Hour that offer early childhood educators a way into a sense of queer imagination. Play as praxis being the Marxist term, aesthetic transformation, strategic defiance. They're trying to deliberately teach your children to be defiant. Of who? Any authority other than theirs, of course. The destigmatization of shame. think we need a lot more shame. I think not enough things are shamed, frankly. I think far too many people want to celebrate their degenerate desires out in public because their conscience is screaming at them. And so they keep telling you that you're a bigot, that you're far right, ooh, for not going along with their weird, perverse fetishes. And embodied kinship. Embodying children's kinship with a drag queen.
Ah, right. Yes. That also
Right.
sounds terribly creepy.
Yeah, so they're gonna make you defy your parents, destigmatize shame. I wonder shame about what particular sexual taboos there, and embody kinship with your replacement drag parent.
And I wonder where they envisage in their own mind this whole process eventually leading. I mean, what's the payoff at the end of this process? I think we can guess.
Well, I think we know what Darren Moore wanted, performing as a drag queen around family-friendly pride events, given he had already enacted that as a late teenager, and then as a gymnastics instructor, repeatedly trying to assault children. I would, of course, not allege that Sab Samuel has anything else in mind other than just reading his gay kids' books to kids
Well, no, heavens
about how
defend.
love has no age, remember? Nothing weird about that at all. Okay, ultimately the authors propose that drag pedagogy provides a performative approach to queer pedagogy that is not simply about LGBT lives, but living queerly. Drag Queen Story Hour is to teach your kids to live queerly. Now, queer in the academic sense, as conceived of by Gail Rubin, who wrote Thinking Sex, that germinated queer theory, who said that we need to destigmatize boy love, direct quote, which I nearly got arrested for complaining about outside Conservative Party conference. Queer means a sort of perpetual internal revolution. So if you're gay, right, and gay becomes accepted by society, now that it's decriminalised and even the bloody Church of England are thinking about same-sex unions, then you're now part of the hegemony. You're not a revolutionary anymore.
Right.
You're a traitor to the cause. You've got false consciousness
Which
because you're...
I thought was the idea.
Yeah, no, not if you're a Marxist revolutionary.
Right.
Instead, being queer means that your identity is constantly in flux. You can invent new pronouns on the day. You can have a brand new flag every 2 minutes. And so, because you can never be captured by the hegemony, because you can never be normalized, you're permanently bringing whatever your marginal desires are into the mainstream. And so, because you're having a revolution inside, the revolution never stops. And so you're the perfect constituency for a Marxist revolution.
So this is the undefeated slippery slope argument, is it?
Something's very slippery, definitely.
Yes.
Unfortunately. Just going back to this. It may be that Drag Queen Story Hour is family friendly. Remember that term? They always try and market it as family friendly. You're a far right bigot if you don't bring your kids to see the grown man twerk in a dress. In the sense that it is accessible and inviting to families with children. But it is less a sanitizing force than it is a preparatory introduction to alternate modes of kinship. Let me just condense that again. It may be that Drag Queen Story Hour is family friendly, but it is a preparatory introduction to alternative modes of kinship. Right. So it's family friendly to bring families to then destroy the families. So we can supplant it with, quite literally, a drag family, because they say that in here.
Yes, they're rather hoping that families don't read the fine print here, aren't they?
It's not even fine print. This is the leading educational journal pretty much globally. And this is just out there for anyone to read. And not many people have. So again, anytime someone questions Drag Queen Story Hour as, it's just a bit of fun, it's just wigs and makeup, they're just being silly and reading to children. No, they deliberately want to take children away from their parents. It's grooming. It's absolutely grooming. There's no question about it. Okay. Here, Drag Queen Story Hour is a family-friendly in the sense of family as an old-school queer code to identify and connect with other queers on the street. So they're going to make your kids live queerly. They're going to make sure that they are given the praxis to strategically defy the authority of their parents. Then they're going to destigmatize shame regarding what exactly. And then they're going to embody kinship as a replacement from the family with a new drag family of other queers on the street.
It's quite obvious what they want to get out of this at the end.
You sound like a far-right bigot to me.
Yes.
We suggest that Drag Queen Story Hour offers a queer relationality with children that breaks from the reproductive futurity of the normative classroom and nuclear family. They want to have a queer relationship with your children to break the nuclear family. Thank you for saying it. Many performers study their craft in an adoptive drag family, wherein drag mothers, or fathers, sisters, aunties, guide their children in anything from how to glue down one's eyebrows to delivering a flawless lip sync. So it's obviously about supplanting your influence with a drag family. What do they want to destigmatize? How close do they want to get to your children? It ends with a threat. We're reading books while we read each other's looks, and we're leaving a trail of glitter that won't ever come out of the carpet.
I think they want to get very close to your children. I mean, they're not going to stop at, 3-foot distance, are they?
That sounds like...
It'd be -6 inches before long if this carries on.
That sounds like indelible emotional and mental scarring.
Mm.
Won't ever come out of the carpet. What won't they remember when they destigmatise shame? Okay, so we've got Baroness and the House of Lords now finally investigating this, so hopefully there's some legislative movement within the UK. I'm just going to read from this letter. Dear Mr. Rudd, please forgive me writing to you at this address, but I could not find one for you as the chairman of trustees at Tate Galleries. And this is Baroness Emma Harriet Nicholson, who's a conservative and liberal Democrat peer. And I believe she's one of the chairs of the Women's Committee in the House of Lords. I expect you're aware of the controversy surrounding the decision to engage a drag queen to read stories to children at Tate Britain during half-term, as it featured in the Daily Telegraph on the 19th of January. Having adults read to children is a wonderful thing, of course. But why does it have to be a man pretending to be a woman? Why does it have to be a man who posts on Facebook about anal sex and orgies pretending to be a woman? Why does it have to be a man who posts on Facebook about anal sex orgies and photographs of themselves in daddy t-shirts pretending to be a woman? Why does it have to be a man who posts on Facebook about anal sex orgies, photographs of themselves in a daddy t-shirt, whose mission it is to be a role for young queer people pretending to be a woman? The answer is apparently, our galleries offer a broad program and visitors have the freedom to choose which aspects they engage with. This is nonsense on stilts. These are children. Are they to be offered in entertainment by murderers, paedophiles, terrorists, furries, and other fetishists, so their parents have to explain why they cannot be left with the kooky, colourful cartoon character they have seen promoted? If we go on to the next, please, John. Drag is adult entertainment. Loose definition of entertainment there. Advocates for queer ideology are not appropriate role models for young children, not even if they are reading a cereal box. Drag Queen Story Hour is not panto, it is propaganda. Please reconsider whether or not this is something the Tate should encourage or facilitate. Right, she is the chair of the parliamentary campaign group for the Women and Children First. Great letter, very forthright. Do something about it. Don't just tell them not to do it, because they're receiving publicly funded arts grants. They're receiving taxpayer money to do this. So are public libraries. Legislate against it. Like, I have no truck at this point with the libertarians who are value apathetic libertarians. I'd love to live in a libertarian community. I bloody hate tax. I'd like to live in a Hopperian libertarian community where we can kick out all the communists and people who aren't contributing to the civilization. But I'm not content a town over to know that children are being routinely abused or subjected to this kind of stuff. That is the limit of where you say, oh, we can't have a state that will infringe on rights. No, I'm kind of okay with infringing on the rights of literal paedophile drag queens. I'm okay with that. So, I don't like the state very much. But in this instance, do something about it. I've literally just read to you the intent of their crimes, right? Do something about it. Unfortunately, it's unlikely they'll ever be prosecuted. Oh, bugger. So don't trust these people. Don't bring your kids around these people. We should stop this from happening. Keep up the protests and keep up the pressure, but doesn't look like the establishment's on our side. It looks like they're on the side of the man in a rainbow with a bulge.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the content that's on the site, such as the Contemplation series, this one on libertarianism. If you'd like to find out what else Lotus is putting out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.